Okay, my dear children, this is K. Jalal from Eden English. Today we are going to start with lesson number 6. Vistas lesson number 6. The name of the lesson is On the Face of It. On the Face of It. So, my dear children, this is one of the important lessons. Whether you are preparing for the state board examination of class 12 or you are preparing for cbse final examination class 12, so this is quite important, and in this lesson we'll try to cover up all the details pertaining to the historical context, the theme of the lesson, the analysis of the characters, the major points, the question and answer, all these things in a very detailed manner, including the biography of the author too, will be discussed. So have patience, my dear children, and get the concept fully clear. So here we start with the lesson. So the name of the lesson is On the Face of It. So first let us see the biography of the writer. The name of the writer is Susan Hill. Susan Hill was born on the coast of North Yorkshire, England, into the middle of the World War II. She wrote her first novel, The Enclosure, before she graduated from King's College, London. In 1975, she married Stanley Wells, a Shakespeare scholar, and they moved to Shakespeare's hometown of Stratford-upon-Avon. So after this, let us see, my dear children. So we are talking about Susan Hill. She was also married to another person, Stanley Wells, and she was married to that particular person who was also a scholar of Shakespearean literature, means English literature, and both of them shifted to the particular place called Stratford-upon-Avon. This is the village in which Shakespeare was born. This is quite important. So because of her marvelous writing, she got a lot many prizes and awards, and she won the numerous literary honors, including the Somerset Maugham Award, a particular award named after the great writer Somerset Maugham. And in 2012, Hill was appointed by the Queen as the commander of the Order of the British Empire for her services to literature. So, because of her unparalleled contribution in the field of literature, the Queen of England made her the commander of the Order of the British Empire. So now let us see the next part, my dear children. So let us go. So in the second, let us discuss about the historical context of the face of it. So when you learn about the historical context, particularly under what circumstance the particular lesson was written, what is the background, means the particular place and the time in which the lesson was written, your understanding, your conception of the lesson will be 100% clear. So at the background of this lesson, my dear children, there is one war. The name of the war is World War II, the famous World War II. It had the far-reaching influence in the socio-economic condition of the world. Therefore, at the backdrop of this war, the lesson was written. Let us continue. On the Face of It, probably set in rural England, sometimes around the time of its writing, 1975. So it was written in 1975, and at the backdrop of it, there is the World War II. The only specific historical event mentioned in the play is the war, that is the World War II, during which Mr. Lamb had his leg blown up by a bomb. So Mr. Lamb is one of the protagonists. Protagonist. Protagonist means the main character, the major character. Or Mr. Lamb is the major character, and he also joined the Second World War, and one of his legs was blown off due to the bomb in the Second World War. That means, my dear children, we get to know that we are going to deal about, or we are going to deal with the handicapped people. PH I am writing, physically handicapped or physically challenged people, CHALLENGD, challenged people. Now do you see that the physically challenged people different from you, or they are the same? The attitude or the outlook or the common people is similar or different? Do they get the mental trauma or the pain while they are living in the society? Are they isolated from the society, or do they really by themselves get withdrawn from the society? All these things we'll get to know from this lesson. So now let us proceed. Here we go. Now I'll be coming to the main point of the lesson. So we'll make the review of the lesson just by going through the main point of it. So here we move. Let us continue. So now we are going to the main points or tidbits or bits of the lesson. So my dear children, in this lesson there are some 4 major characters. One of them is a Derry. There is one character. So after this discussion of the main point, we'll go to the character analysis of the protagonist. 2 protagonists are there. 2 major characters are there. Who are they? One is Derry. Other one is Mr. Lamb. So number 1 is Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb. L-A-M-B. Lamb. And number 2 is Master Derry. Okay, Master Derry, D-E-R-R-Y, Derry. So these 2 characters, as you have come to know, Mr. Lamb joined the Second World War, and one of his legs was blown, and because of that, while he walked in a limping manner, and therefore the children call him Lammy Lamb. Lammy Lamb. And the second protagonist is Master Derry, and he is having a burned face. He is having a burned face, and because of this burned face, he suffers lot of social humiliation. He faces lot of social humiliation or indignation or dishonor. The outlook of the people is so different. They look at him differently from them. Therefore, because of the outlook and the attitude, what happened? That Derry isolates or alienates himself from the society. Is it clear, my dear children? So these are the 2 major characters, and again there is the mother of Derry. She is the antagonist or the opposing character of the major character, whom we in simple word we call the villain. Okay, villain of the piece. Alright, so we'll go to that, and now let us see, let us continue with the text now. So we'll see the main points. Derry was a teenager, highly pessimistic and withdrawn from the mainstream society. So he is a teenager. The normal teenager, in the case of the normal teenager, we see that their world is a very gorgeous world. They live in a very fantastic world. Alright, they live in a very fantastic world, means a world which is full of fancy, means a world full of imagination, So in the majority of the time, what they do, they are very much adventurous, they are very much dreaming, they are very much imaginative, and they live in the world of fancy or imagination. But in the case of our Derry, we can notice that he is not living in the world of fantasy or in the world of imagination. Rather, he is living in a very negative world, in a very pessimistic world, my dear children. So, the attitude of attitude. Attitude is two type of attitudes are there. One is negative attitude and another one is positive attitude. So first we have to talk about the positive attitude, and this is the negative attitude. Okay. So this positive attitude is called optimistic. Optimistic. And the negative one is called the pessimistic. So our Derry had a very pessimistic attitude towards life, because life has not given anything to him, and the attitude of the people also very much different, and therefore he is having very pessimistic attitude towards life, and for this reason he is withdrawn from the mainstream society. Then let us continue. He developed this attitude after one side of his face was disfigured by acid. He avoided company of others and remained lonely, lest he should be noticed by other people. So my dear children, there is two complexes. There are complexes. What sort of complexes? One, the inferiority complex. Inferiority complex. And another one is superiority. So this is the attitude to where the person feels that he is greater than other. That is called superiority complex. And another one is that one thinks himself as being very small, very little. That is the inferiority complex. So in this case, what we see is that what is the kind of the attitude? What is the kind of the complex he was suffering from? He was suffering from the inferiority complex, and he thought himself as being insufficient, or he is incompetent compared to the other people, and therefore he remained lonely, he remained aloof. Okay, he remained far away from people, so that people will notice and begin to stare at him, look at him continuously, and then begin to think and begin to give command, even though not open from their own mind. Therefore, let us continue. He believed that no one loved him, and his mother loved him because she was supposed to. So one day, our Derry heard the conversation of two people. Conversation of the two people, particularly women. Okay, these are two women were talking. Woman number 1 and woman number 2, they were talking. While they were talking, after seeing the face of a Derry, one woman was telling, this particular fellow is so ugly that only a mother can love. Because a mother is compelled to love the child, whether he is beautiful, handsome or ugly. It doesn't matter. Therefore, the mother is supposed to or compelled to love, and therefore the mother loves. Otherwise, no person will love this particular boy, as was conversed or as was discussed by two women in the street. And from that, his conception was also modified. His conception also was constructed on the basis of the comment of the people. Is it clear, my dear children? Very simple. Let us continue. So here we go. Well, Derry cannot be completely blamed for his pessimistic and aggressive attitude towards the world around him. So now we can notice that it is not Derry himself who is responsible for his pessimistic outlook. His outlook, his attitude is negative, and because of that, who is responsible? The people also is responsible. The people of the society. Their attitude, their comment, their views, their remarks, all this also modified the behavior, and because of that, Derry become what he is now. Therefore, for Derry's attitude, he is not completely or solely responsible, solely, S-O-L-E-L-Y, solely responsible. Therefore, let us continue. Here we go. Once he had two women commenting about his monstrous appearance, they said only a mother could love a face like this. On another day, Derry heard his parent conversing that he would not survive after the death because he was deformed. So one day, the parents of Derry, they were conversing, or they were discussing in a very whispering manner, in a very low voice. What they were actually discussing? They were expressing their concern. They were expressing their fear. What is the fear? The fear is death. After their death, the survival of this deformed boy will be questioned. Because people will comment anything, and because of that, it will be very difficult for the boy to survive, to live. And this whispering, this low talk was listened by them. The shock he received from this words was big. After hearing this, the shock was untold shock, means that cannot be measured. On another occasion, Derry heard his relative saying that he's been put into the hospital where he had been treated after the accident was good for him. In their opinion, a deformed boy like Derry could accommodate himself with other deformed boys. My dear children, you see this line. So do you agree with this line that the deformed children or physically challenged children, they should live only with the deformed children? No, na? Exactly. They should not be thought as being separate. They should not be viewed as separate. They are our part and parcel. Therefore, we should not separate them. We should not segregate them. Now let us see this part once. His relative was talking. The relative was talking that while he was being treated into the hospital after getting the accident, or the burning accident by the acid, the particular hospital where he was treated, that is the suitable place for Derry to accommodate or live. Derry had his ears always open for such comment and used to respond to them in a silent way. Now, people are commenting, and his eyes will be open, and as a reaction, what he will do? He will be reacting not in an aggressive manner, but in a very silent way. And what is that? He will alienate or separate. He will separate from the mainstream society. He will go away. Okay? He will go more away from the mainstream society. Let us continue with the main points. Let us see. He concluded that the world altogether did not need a boy like him. So it was the final assumption. Means what he assumed. Okay, what he assumed means what he guessed. Okay, what are the guessing? From all this talk, he could understand that a person like me is not needed by the society. I am a waste of the society. I need not live in the company of the other normal people or the children. I should live alone, or I should live away from the common people. So that was the kind of the belief that was formed, and because of that, his assumption was also very ultimate type of assumption. One day Derry accidentally met a man called Mr. Lamb. Let us see, dear children, some incidents and coincidence in life become very important, and they completely transform or change one's life. And that is one because of some magnetic quality, because of some impressive or attractive personality. If you meet this person, then what will be there? Then there will be kind of induction. So do you know what is the induction? The theory of induction you have got in physics. Okay, so induction means getting affected. If a magnet is put into the field, into the magnetic field, anything will be attracted, which is metallic. Metallic thing will be attracted towards the particular magnet when it is in the magnetic field. In the similar manner, what happens when you are in the magnetic field or in the induction field of the person? If the person happens to be good, then you are also supposed to be good. If you are in the company or in the induction of the bad people, then it is supposed that you may also be induced by that. So similar is the case, and the meeting was very much crucial. The meeting was very much crucial. It was a very much important because it was life-changing incident. The incident that also happened very coincidentally. He actually did not expect. He did not deliberately wanted to meet Mr. Lamb. It was by accident that he met Mr. Lamb, and that became so crucial that it changed the whole attitude. It changed the whole personality of our Master Derry. So what is that? Let us continue and see. One day Derry accidentally met Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb was an old man with a lamb leg. His leg was lame, because one of the leg was blown into the Second World War, where he joined as a soldier. After he became a lamb, Mr. Lamb began to develop a positive attitude with his deformity. So he is an example for all the people who are physically challenged. So how a person with having physical deformity or physically challenged person, how he can be an example for other deformed children to lead a very normal life. Then let us see how it is possible, how he begin to slowly and gradually begin to persuade. So my dear children, you see this particular word, persuade means what? Trying to convince. Okay, now suppose I am talking. So what I am talking, so a position will come and you will be in the position of agreeing with what I tell. That is the persuasion. That means I am persuading you slowly and gradually to tell that Mr. Lamb was a very optimistic or positive person, and he totally changed our Derry to lead a very normal life. His contribution was great in the life of Master Derry. Therefore, let us continue. He worked hard to defeat his impairment and learn to walk and climb ladders. So, Mr. Lamb had a garden. He had a garden. into the garden. It was called orchard. ORCHARD, orchard means fruit garden. There are so many trees, including the crab apple trees. So the crab apple trees, they were also there in the garden. And many times what he did, he climbed it. He climbed the ladder in order to pick the apples. Just to say, okay, just to challenge the deformity. Let us continue. Have you seen? He was happy to be alive and ignored his lameness. He ignored the two things. What is that? One, that he is physically deformed. He ignored another thing also. What is that? The comment of the other people. Comment of the other people, like the small children, they call him lammy lamb. He took it positively and he took it as a humor and he make laugh. He began to laugh. He simply ignored it. Therefore, in this way, he devised or he discovered a way of life, and he lived life to the full in spite of all the other challenges he faced. Is he not an example to be followed? Is he not a person to be emulated? Then let us continue. He met everyone, his friend, and had a house with no curtains and open doors. He welcomed everyone who came to him. Now see, my dear children. So he is a person whose gate was also open. The gate of his campus was always open. His home was there. His house also did not have any curtain because it was open to the world. Anybody can see and he can also see anybody. Means there is no barrier in between him and the world. That means everybody is welcome. Everybody is a friend. Everybody can come and go. Means there is no barrier in between the deformed and the common people. That is the symbolic gesture. That is the symbolic meaning he wanted to imply through this lesson. Then let us continue. While Mr. Lamb took his impairment as a challenge and tried to overcome it, Derry believed that he was unwanted and lost. So, my dear children, this is a contrasting attitude. Contrasting means simply the opposite, okay? North pole and south pole. North pole and south pole. Therefore, Mr. Lamb, if he is in the North Pole, Mr. Lamb, then our Derry is into the South Pole, And what our Derry did, Master Derry, he thought that he is a totally unwanted boy. He is not actually needed by anybody in the world. He is just like a waste to be thrown in the gutter or in the dustbin. That was the attitude, and that was a very negative attitude. But our master, Mr. Lamb, so he was very positive. He took all the other challenges. He took it very positively. He lived life to the full, and he lived as if he is a common person, and he also took the impairment of his physical challenge. He took his impairment or the physical challenge as an opportunity to show to the world that he can live life to the full in spite of his deformity. Let us continue. His pain was physical. Whose pain was physical? His pain was physical and mental. Being a child, he was not as strong as Mr. Lamb about suffering. So the pain of Master Derry was physical, burnt face. It was a mental. He thought himself as being very unwanted thing, unwanted wits, or waste, unwanted waste. That was the kind of the feeling. And he was, when you compare, he was not as strong as Mr. Lamb, who was also suffering from a deformed leg. He could not take the snaring and sympathizing word as taken by Mr. Lamb. So here we see all these point are the point of contrast. So now we are contrasting the character of Mr. Lamb with Master Derry. So what the world did? The world was snaring. Snaring means what? So distorting the face just to express the attitude. That is called snaring. Means laughing at. L-A-U-G-S-I-N-G. Laughing at also. People begin to sympathize with the physically challenged people, and this is not done by Mr. Lamb, because he did not take anybody's sympathy. He did not need anybody's sympathy because he wanted to lead life just like a common or ordinary person. Then let us continue. Mr. Lamb was able to see it smart and unaffected as long as he wore trousers and sat, but Derry had no way to hide his face. So this is the point where we can see when Derry was telling, sir, your deformity, you can simply cover it up or hide the deformity when you are wearing the trousers, but my deformity is a little different from you. My face cannot be covered with any handkerchief or other, because that also will again attract the attention of the other. Therefore my deformity is different from yours. Derry's deformity is different from Mr. Lamb. That is what is opined by Master Derry. After meeting Mr. Lamb, Derry realized how foolish he had been to believe his parents. So as I told you earlier, that his meeting with Mr. Lamb transformed him, means there is a kind of drastic change in his life. He now begin to understand that while his parents was telling that after their death, the survival of this boy will be questioned. Then Mr. Lamb was of the opinion that the parents were wrong in telling so. Therefore he now slowly and gradually he began to be persuaded by our Mr. Lamb, who is the great preacher or a teacher who can persuade people, particularly those people who are suffering from any kind of deformity. Then let us continue. Here we go. Let us proceed. For him, Lamb was a man who opened the door of his closed world in an hour's time, that the same of which were shut on him by his parents, and therefore believed that his company with Mr. Lamb would make him a perfect person. Now, my dear children, let us see this part. Mr. Lamb was such a person that he was a magnetic person. Who was magnetic person? Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb's attitude towards life was very positive, and therefore he was a magnetic personality. He was an attractive personality. He was an impressive personality. And because of this, Master Derry was also affected or influenced or impacted by it. So how he was impacted? Let us see. So there is a Master Derry. So there is a opinion was very much negative. His attitude was very much negative. Particularly this was influenced by the parents. by the thought and the belief of the parents. But as soon as he made Mr. Lamb, his attitude was drastically changed, and now he began to realize that his parents were wrong in believing that he cannot lead his life, a normal life, after their death. Then let us proceed. At the end, Derry goes back to his house where his mother cross-questioned him. She had instructed him not to step out of the house. Let us see, my dear children, so that the mother, as we told earlier, the mother of Derry was the antagonist. Antagonist. So what is the simple meaning? Simple meaning is the villain of the piece. Her thought had a bad impact on the child. She did not know Mr. Lamb, and she thought that the mother thought that Mr. Lamb is a bad man, a unwanted man, and people tell a lot of things about Mr. Lamb, and she was influenced by that thought, and this particular thought was imposed on his child also. But the child also had his own understanding. He could understand what is good for him. He told himself that, no, mother, no, I will go to Mr. Lamb. If I do not go to Mr. Lamb, then I will go nowhere. I will have to go. And he disobeyed the order of the mother and went to Mr. Lamb, because he told something which was totally new, totally innovative, and therefore he wanted to go there, but it was too late. It was too late. So when he went there, he saw that just below the apple tree, the ladder fell down, and the body was lying. Body of Mr. Lamb was lying very still, quite unmoving, and he was lying dead. So sorry, end of the story. But with the death of somebody also, one person's attitude, one person's outlook is totally changed. Is it not a great contribution? Yes, of course it is a great contribution. And Mr. Lamb is not less than a martyr, because he laid down his life in the cause of a small child. Therefore, he is also can be regarded as being a great martyr. Ignoring his mother's thoughtless restriction, Derry left his home and ran to Mr. Lamb's garden. On reaching, Derry found a motionless Mr. Lamb fallen from the ladder. He had fallen while pulling the crab apple down from the tree. So the end of the lesson is quite tragic, because we see here at the end we can understand that the major character or the protagonist dies. If the hero or the major character dies towards the end of the lesson, end of the story, or end of the plot, end of the drama, then we call this drama as being a tragic drama. Therefore, this lesson is also very tragic, because at the end, one of the protagonists or one of the heroes dies a very pathetic death. So, my dear children, I suppose you understood the full content of this lesson. Now it is our time to justify the title, because appearance is very deceptive. Therefore, let us continue. Let us continue. So we go for the justification of the title. So in the answer part, my dear children, what we'll notice, So after reading this lesson, we'll understand how this lesson, how this title of this lesson is apt. Apt means appropriate. appropriate. Appropriate means just, means justified, means suitable. How can you tell that the title is suitable? That means no other title can be suggested. No other valid title can be suggested, and whatever title is chosen, that is fitting, that is very appropriate, that is very suitable. What is that? Let us see. This sort of question actually challenges your critical faculty, and that is the need of the hour. Therefore, let us go for this. According to the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, on the face of it is an informal expression used to say that something seems to be good, true, etc. But this opinion may need to be changed when you know more about it. So this is the definition of Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Very popular dictionary, Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. And here the dictionary tells that on the face of it, the meaning of it is that what appears in the first instance or in the first look. Okay, that is a different when you go deeper, when you look at it very closely or very minutely, then the initial impression and the later impression or the last impression is different. That is what is told. In the simple term, we can tell that appearance is deceptive. जो होता है वो देखता नहीं है, जो देखता है वो होता नहीं है. The definition of the expression should leave us in no doubt about the appropriateness of the title. So if you go to the definition, then we will see that the title is very much appropriate. An individual may be quite different from what we think him of and what he or she may apparently appear to be at first glance. There is an imperative need for us to view others by removing our glasses of the prejudice, hatred, hearsay, and dislike. So when we have some preconceived, okay, when we have some preconceived notion or idea, that is called the prejudice. When we have the hatred in our mind, when we simply hear what other people tell, when we dislike something, and on the basis of all this, when we begin to judge a thing, when we begin to judge a thing just by wearing these glasses of spectacle of the prejudice, hatred, hearsay, and dislike, then our judgment also will be very much biased, or very much partial, means it will not be impartial. Then from the text, how it is made appropriate or suitable, let us see. On the face of it, Mr. Lamb appears to be mysterious, lonely, lamb, old fellow who lives in a neighborhood house with a huge garden, but in reality he is a very kind, generous, loving, and altruistic. Altruistic means the person who loves to help others, means very generous. Similarly, although Derek has an ugly looking scary face, he is fine lad of 14 with a deep longing for love. That means what we see about Mr. Lamb and Master Derek, they are quite different. We see something, but inside something different. Okay, some different stories there. There is nothing wrong with Mr. Lamb and Derek. What is wrong is the way people in their lives and around them view and treat them. On the face of it, there is so much of diversity diversity, so many differences and divides between the people and other species of the world, but underneath there is oneness, sameness, unity. Of all of them are created by God, and all of them need to live and grow together with the love and mutual acceptance. So in this lesson, a very great message is there. When you see things, our seeing or look or outlook, on the surface we see some things on the surface, we see something on the deeper level. Apparently looking, when we see into the surface, then we see that there are so many barriers, so many restriction of language, caste, creed and color, but there is inner or deeper unity. There is inner unity, inner oneness, inner sameness, or there is unitary character. And of all of them are created by God. Means they are all of them are the creation of the God, the same God, only one God. That Susan Hall has quite appropriately entitled her play under the face of it. Therefore, this play is suitably titled as been on the face of it. I suppose you understood the significance of the title. Now it is the time for going to the theme, and it will be a kind of repetition because while we discussed the points, the major points, we have also talked about the theme. So let us go to the theme now. Let us go. People who suffer from disability must always look at the bright side of things and adapt reality of life bravely. Adaptive means making oneself suitable. Making oneself suitable. Make oneself suitable. Adapting. Because the survival of the fittest only. Only those who survive, only those will be surviving who are fit. The unfit one, whether it is a tree or human being or animal, they will be annihilated. They will be extinct from the world. At the same time, the actual pain or the inconvenience caused by the physical impairment or the deformity is often much less than the sense of alienation felt by the person. So the kind of impairment. So the pain that is given by the impairment is less than that of the alienation or the separation or aloofness. Okay? When the people are withdrawing themselves because of the outlook of the people, the kind of the suffering, kind of the strangeness or the alienation suffered by them is huge compared to the physical deformity or the impairment they usually suffers. The disabled need support and acceptance and not our pity. This line is very, very important. So what the disabled people want? They do not want any kind of pity. When you are telling a disabled person, oh, I take a lot of pity on your deformity, then they actually do not like. They wanted to treat themselves at a par with the common people or the normal people. This is very, very important, my dear children. When you will learn education also, okay, when you will learn educational psychology also, then you will also understand about this, how the physically challenged people want themselves to be treated. The title on the face of it is used to mean that something seems to be good or true, etc., but that needs to be changed when you know more about it. Apparently, it seems to be better, but Appearance is very deceptive. It can cheat you at any moment. Therefore, that is need to be changed, or that is a need to be transformed. Appearances are deceptive. You have to remember this line and you have to use this in the examination. Appearances are deceptive. And most often we go on dealing with the impression and prejudices about other without caring to know about them actually. So we do not try to know about other people, and on the basis of our preconception, that is called prejudice, we begin to comment and begin to treat those people, and that is a very miserable, that is a very pathetic, that is very sorry state of affair. People know Mr. Lamb is a lonely, excessive lamb old man, but in reality he is a very kind and sympathetic person. Let us go, my dear children. Let us continue. He is a very sympathetic and generous person. He is a very generous person, light-hearted person who longs for company, who yearns for company. Longs means yearns, means strongly desire, strongly desire. And he loves his fellow human being along with all the other creations of God. So, in the opinion of Mr. Lamb, there is no smaller gate. The weeds are equally important as the flowers. Means in the garden, lot many things will be there. There will be the sapling, there will be tree, there will be flowers, there will be weeds, and everything is equally important. And nobody is great, nobody is small, all are equal. Similarly, Derek appears to be an abominable, means hateful. Abominable means hateful. Hateful, ugly boy with a huge scar. Scar means mark on his face, whom no one loves or likes to or befriend. He is the object of other people's hateful stares, ridicules, and neglect. We notice that the appearance of Derek is very hateful. Means after seeing the burned face of a Derek, people begin to hate because of the ugly look or the appearance of the boy. There is the huge mark, there is whisker on his face, and because of that, even the mother also feel a kind of repulsion or distraction. He is the object of the people's hateful stare. Means after seeing him, after seeing the burned face of the child, people begin to stare. Stare means continuously looking something like very strange thing, and then they begin to ridicule, begin to pass some command, pass a negative command, and then they begin to neglect him. Even if the mother does not dare to kiss him on the cheek with the scar. Now see, the mother also, for the mother, every child is equal, whether it is the deformed child or the normal child. But the mother also does not dare to kiss the particular side of the cheek which actually suffered the burn. Yet this boy, who is suffering from an acute infirmity complex, has a tender and sensitive heart. Now see, inside it, now we are going inside our main character, the protagonist. So inside the burned face, what we see is that he is a tender boy. Means he is a very loving kind of a boy, and he is a very sensitive at heart. He wants to love and be loved. He wants to love other people, and he wants the love of other people. Fortunately, he missed Mr. Lamb, who transformed him with his healing touch. So you have heard of Midas stone. Midas stone in the similar manner, or Mr. Lamb also had the Midas stone, and with that, what he did, he transformed the whole personality of of our Derek. And he, from the negative, from the pessimistic outlook, he changed into an optimistic. He began to mingle with, he began to freely mix with the common people and begin to look at the world in a different manner, into the manner in which Mr. Lamb looks. Now let us continue. Here you go. So now, my dear children, we will be discussing the characters. The two characters are there, and we'll go to the characters. Very interesting part of the character we'll see. Very interesting. The major character, two characters are there. First we'll see the character of Mr. Lamb. Here you go. We see Mr. Lamb's character. So the majority of the thing you have understood about the character. So now I will be talking in detail, okay, the detail about the character, so that in the examination, when the question comes about give a brief character portrayal or the characterization of Mr. Lamb, then you can write in a very beautiful manner. And after this characterization, I have some questions. Two type of question I will be discussing. One very short type question and another one is very long type question. I will be telling you what are the value points particularly in the case of the long answer type questions. Let us go first to the character of Mr. Lamb, who is one of the protagonists. One of the place to central character, Mr. Lamb, an old man and veteran of the World War II. In the war, he lost one of the legs to a bomb. And now he has a thin leg. Lamb owns a big house and a garden. And though he lives alone, he keeps himself busy growing crab apple, keeping bees, reading and making toffee and jelly. He is a wise and contemplative soul who enjoys observing, listening and learning from other people and the natural world. So he is having a lot of curiosity, and he is having the curiosity to learn just by observing, listening and learning from the people and the natural world as we do. We learn different subjects including the physics, okay, just by seeing the physical phenomenon of this world. We learn people, okay, we learn people, we learn literature just by observing people and knowing about the characteristics. In his conversation with Derry, he expresses a philosophy and openness, one judgment, connection, and his kindness and his sense of dignity inherent in all people eventually helps him break through the boy's very and defiant exterior. In keeping with his mindset of openness, Lamb has no curtain on his open windows because he likes to see the light and dark for what it is, and to hear the weather outside. He also leaves the garden gate open and states that all are welcome in his garden and home. Mr. Lamb says that he has hundreds of friends and that people like to come and go in his home, but it is unclear if it is true or not. That is suspected that Mr. Lamb is in fact lonely and unhappy, lonely and unhappy, and that no one actually comes to visit him. Lamb does admit that the neighborhood children call him Lammy Lamb because of his leg, but he says that this doesn't bother him at all. At the end of the play, Mr. Lamb falls from the ladder while picking an apple, and though it is left unclear, it is suggested that the fall kills him. So, towards the end of the play, we could notice that he was not making any kind of movement, and from that we can understand that he is no more. So there is a many discussion, there are many chords of Lamb with Derry. So one part, let us see this part. Let us see the chord. Derry, I thought it was empty, an empty house, Mr. Lamb. So it is. Since I am out here into the garden, it is empty until I go back inside. In the meantime, I am out here likely to stop. A day like this, beautiful day, not a day to be indoors. So this is the conversation. The first scene of the play starts with Derry and Lamp. Derry actually did what? Derry in a very stealthily or in a very hiding manner, in a very hiding manner, what he did, he went inside the campus just after crossing to the wall. And then he told, I thought it is empty. It is an empty house. Then Mr. Lambra told, you are welcome. But see that you do not fall. You do not trip onto the crab apple. And yes, you are of course right. Telling that it is an empty house because I am into the outside and the house is empty. It is having no curtain. Okay, you are welcome here. So in this way, the lesson starts, and it is suggested that you read the lesson thoroughly to understand and enjoy it better. Then let us go to the next character, the next protagonist. So who is that? Our Derry. So this is the Derry's character. So we'll see the character of Derry. So he is other protagonist, and he underwent a lot of changes throughout this lesson because of his meeting with Mr. Lamb. So how it is? Let us see. The other protagonist is Derry. He is a boy of 14 with a badly burned face. On the accident that left him scared, all he says is, I got acid all down that side of my face and it burned it all away. It ate my face up. Because of this, people treat him differently. He complains that others fear and pity him and usually actively avoid him. Now this is the complaint of the boy. So what the boy tells? The boy tells that people are afraid of him because of the burned face. After seeing them, they begin to compare me with the monster, and they begin to take sympathy or pity on him, and normally people avoid him. This has led Derry to isolate himself and create a tough, reserved exterior. Now, because of this attitude of the people, he silently reacted. What is the reaction? He isolated himself from other people, and outside we can notice that he is a very reserved and very tough fellow to be tackled. He wants to avoid being hurt, and so he avoids the company of everyone he meets. Let us continue. And when he does interact with other people, he is both very and angrily defiant, disobedient. He also has internalized the way others see him and seems to consider himself monstrous because of his disability. He assumes that the world is a harsh and alienating place and act accordingly. For example, climbing over Mr. Lamb's garden wall instead of checking the gate, which is always left open. Now his assumption of the world is also different because of the attitude of the world. So he assumes a very harsh attitude towards the world, and therefore he isolates himself from every people, and accordingly he behaves. So in the beginning of the lesson, we can see that he is climbing over the garden of Mr. Lamb instead of checking himself through the gate, which is always open. At first, Derry assumes that Mr. Lamb will treat him like other people, but he is soon intrigued by the old man's peculiar questions and open nature, suggesting that Derry does in fact longed for human connection even as he feared the potential pain of being rejected. So from this we understand that he initially thought that the other people's, like other people, Mr. Lamb also will have the same opinion, but it was different, and because of that we can understand that Derry also in the heart of the heart wanted to have human connection or human company. This is confirmed when the Derry runs away from his mother, who it is suggested treats him with a dishumanizing kind of pity, to go back to Mr. Lamb's garden, where he just wanted to sit and talk with the old man. Towards the end, we can see that the mother was very strict, and this was inhuman strictness. For this, she restricted him to go and meet Mr. Lamb because of the opinion she formed from the other human being. Let us continue. Now we will see two questions only. Only two questions we will see. This is the kind of the evaluation. Let us see the questions. So everything we have discussed now. This is the part, last part, the evaluation. Without evaluation, the lesson will remain incomplete. So my dear children, you are to consult in your group the questions in the text, and from the outside also you can have the additional question and answer. So let us see the question. The first question. The first question is, who is Derry? What self-opinion does he hold? Derry or Derek, also called Derry, was a young boy of 14. Means he was a teenager. He was aged 14. He was a quiet, shy and defiant. These adjectives are very much needed. You give this adjective in order to describe the boy. This adjective actually describes the boy. One side of his face is the physical description. That is also important when you are talking about a human being. So one side of the face was totally burned by the acid. He was a victim of inferiority complex, and because of the physical deformity, he was suffering constantly from the inferiority complex, and because of that he avoided the company of human beings. Now let us see the last question. So we will be going to the last question in the long type question, and I'll simply give you the hint about this long type of the question and what are the value points that are to be written as far as the long answer type questions are concerned. Long answer type question: how did Mr. Lamb's meeting with the Derry become a turning point in Derry's life? Turning point means it is a kind of milestone. Turning point means milestone, means something very crucial or important, something very historic, something very vital, something very life-changing. So what is that? Life-changing event in the case of Derry was his meeting or his meet with Mr. Lamb. How it was that? Let us see. So first we will be talking about the similarity, then we will be talking about the dissimilarity, and after judging the pros and the cons, after judging the positive and the negative, we will finally come to understand, we will finally come to conclude that yes, this meeting was very much crucial or important. It was a turning point in the life of Derry. Now let us see, both Lamb and Derry were handicapped. So I've just written the main point, and this main point will be elaborating this main point into one or two lines. Then it will be quite interesting. So you have to remember this point, and while you are preparing to the final exam also, these sort of value points are very important. You keep in mind this value point and just go on elaborating or expanding these ideas. Let us continue. Derry in the beginning withdrawn and defiant, could not stand people staring at him. Lamb, open-minded and generous, kept the garden gate open and welcomed all. Lamb had a positive attitude toward Derry not to indulge in self-pity and love life. Taught, okay, who taught? Lamp taught him the ways of dealing with the people. Derry confessed to his mother that Lamp talked of things that nobody had ever talked of, things that gave him an optimistic outlook, even defied his mother. Who defied? It was Master Derry. That is a return to Lamp's garden, shows his appreciation for Lamp and restored confidence. So when towards the end we understand that Derry came back and he kept it worse. He kept his word and came to meet Mr. Lamb. That actually shows his love or appreciation for the work of Mr. Lamb. Therefore, we can understand that the meeting between Derry and Lamb was very crucial for Derry. It was very life-changing, or it was a turning point into the life of Mr. Derry. My dear children, I suppose you understood the lesson. So only thing left out is the MCQ. You will also practice the MCQ because the pattern of the question paper in cbse this year is changed. So you have to practice the MCQ questions a lot in all the chapters. So I hope that you understood the lesson very beautifully. So you will be writing the question answer and you will be presenting it into the form of home assignment. So with this, let me conclude. Thanks to all. Thanks everybody.